Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. As I'm holding this book in my hand, it's called Who Was Esau Edom? It's a very powerful book. Very, very powerful book. I advise you, brothers and you sisters, to get it. Um, it's by Charles A. Wiseman. Now, we're going to go into this construct of modern Hebrew, because what you know as modern Hebrew is not the same as Paleo Hebrew or ancient Hebrew. A biblical Hebrew the same. So when I say paleo, that's why you gotta start being more studious. The word paleo is a Greek word that means ancient. So you might hear some of us say paleo Hebrew. All we saying is ancient Hebrew. Or you might say, you might hear some people say biblical Hebrew. But it all mean the same thing. It's the Hebrew that our forefathers spoke. And the characters are very different from the characters in modern Hebrew. And modern Hebrew is a construct. It was all made up. And a lot of this pronunciation, right, goes back to Yiddish. It's pretty much a I'm just gonna get into the video so you can then I'm gonna go into some information and that proves, and I'm gonna actually prove to you that modern Hebrew is not the same as ancient Hebrew. The Hebrew that Moses spoke, the Hebrew that so-called Joshua spoke, the Hebrew that our forefathers David spoke, so on and so forth. This is not the modern Hebrew. The modern Hebrew is a made-up language, right? So I'm gonna prove this to you. Let's get into it.
Like rabbis, people would read it. People would read the holy books in Hebrew. They would write a limited amount of literature in Hebrew. But no one could speak Hebrew natively. It was a dead language, because when it comes to language, linguistically, language is spoken. It's not written, right? So to say that a language is dead, it means that it doesn't have any native speakers. It means that it's no longer evolving naturally as languages do. That's why we can say, for example, English today is the same language as English from 1,000 years ago, even if we can't understand it, because it was part of an unbroken chain of linguistic, natural, natively spoken linguistic evolution.
And matter of fact, before I get into this heavy part of this video, I'm gonna go into a definition. So we are to be scholars. When it comes to our history, the Bible, historical facts and words. So we're gonna go into this word. The new term today is gonna be linguistics. I'm gonna I'm gonna show you what that means. Give me the definition on the word linguistics.
According to UB College of Arts and Sciences, University at Buffalo, linguistics is the scientific study of language, and its focus is the systematic investigation of the properties of particular languages, as well as the characteristics of language in general.
Okay, and then we give you like a more plain Jane definition, just to get straight to the point. It says linguistics is the scientific study of language. So it's the study of language. That's when you go into breaking words down, going into the etymology or the origin of words, because when you break a word down, that's the truth of the word. And a lot of people don't know that. That's why they can go in the Bible and put so many people under confusion, because people don't know what words properly mean. Right? Let's get into this more into this heavy video.
Evolution. Modern Hebrew wasn't. Modern Hebrew was constructed by Ben Yehuda and other Hebrew revivalists in the same way that Esperanto was.
Communism
the only
is based-
meaningful difference here between Esperanto and modern Hebrew is that there is this emotional nationalistic narrative surrounding Hebrew. So, they're never going to admit that it was constructed in the same similar way. So, for modern Hebrew, they took written vocabulary from books that they didn't know how to pronounce properly. They didn't even know what a lot of these words meant. They combined it with a ton of other vocabulary, grammar, etc., from other languages like Yiddish, Arabic, etc.
You hear that? Like Yiddish, because that's the tongue that they really speak, right? So I'm gonna get into a video too. I'm gonna show you, how they because what they've done. That's why the claim is some Yiddish speaking people can't understand some people that speak modern Hebrew, because the different words that they created out of thin air. But I'm gonna show you. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to explain it, but I just show you.
They combined it with phonology from those languages as well, and they essentially created a drastically different language, absolutely nothing like what Hebrew was when it was actually spoken in the ancient world, and pretended that it was the same language. And the
You
reason
hear that? Pretended that it was the same language, that we wasn't gonna catch it, but we woke now. Back that up one more time. And people that actually go to, so-called college for the study of words and linguistics, they know. But the average commoner, just the Babylonian in this place, they have no clue.
And they essentially created a drastically different language, absolutely nothing like what Hebrew was when it was actually spoken in the ancient world, and pretended that it was the same language. And the reason
Pretended it was the same language. Go to show you that these are not the people of the Lord. They are not Hebrew Israelites. And they'll say they J people, right? But it's 12 tribes of Israel. You can't have a collective nation without all 12 tribes being reunited. That's prophecy, that all 12 tribes will be brought back in the land through Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shah. Not no Balfour Declaration. And they're claiming to be from the tribe of Judah. That's only one tribe. But their lies and lies and lies and lies are falling apart. So let me continue this.
The reason why they did that, and by the way, that was the same thing with Esperanto. Esperanto took vocabulary from other languages, it took grammar from other languages, it took phonology from other languages, it combined it all together to form something new. Functionally, in the terms of how these languages were constructed, that was the same thing. If you want to call modern Hebrew a reconstructed language, good for you. But at the end of the day, we're talking about two things that are the same in terms of how they were made. They were the same. The only reason for the distinction is essentially an emotional nationalistic one. That modern Hebrew is special. So you can't just call it the same as Esperanto. But in terms of the process of how this was actually done, it was exactly the same. If today, someone took the Latin language and was like, oh, this is going to be the language of our new Christian ethno-state or something, and they took a bunch of Latin script, Latin words, etc., Latin grammar, mixed it with Italian and Spanish or something in order to form a functional everyday language, that wouldn't be Latin. It would be a new language. So that's why there's a lot of Israeli scholars, a very influential minority, like 20-30%. And the only reason they're a minority is because obviously this is a very politicized thing in Israel. You can't call modern Hebrew a constructed language there. It's a taboo because it's a legitimizing force for the Zionist project.
Well, there you go. Let me get more into this lesson. One second. This video actually might get a strike. It might take it down, but it is what it is. The truth must flourish. It says modern Hebrew, late 19th to 20th century, revived as a spoken tongue by Ashkenazi J people who brought their Yiddish sound system and grammar into it. So yes, what we call modern Hebrew today is not identical to ancient Hebrew. What is it saying? It's not the Hebrew that our forefathers spoke. This is a made-up new modern Hebrew, because this proves these not the people of the Lord, these imposters. They actually come from the tongue of Yiddish, which is German, Slavic, all kind of madness. It says it's a reconstruction. It says built on ancient Hebrew words, written in ancient Hebrew alphabet, but heavily reshaped by Yiddish and European languages. This, something that 98% of people don't know. Let's go to this next slide. It says modern Hebrew. It says Hebrew vocabulary, Yiddish style pronunciation, Yiddish European grammar. I'm going to go into this definition. Yiddish. It's not the same as biblical Hebrew. What is this saying without them saying it? They not the people of the Lord. The imposters. Despite using the same characters, the same letters, and actually this is false because this kind of Hebrew that they use is an Assyrian script. It's not the Paleo Hebrew characters. That's why they look different. If you go, I got to do a whole language on that. A whole lesson on that so I can show you the difference. It says linguistics. Zuckerman calls it Israeli, a hybrid language, not a pure revival of biblical Hebrew. In short, modern Hebrew looks like biblical Hebrew on paper, but speaks and behaves more like Yiddish with Hebrew words. Well, there you go. Let's get in this definition, Yiddish, so you can understand. Let's go here. And I'm going to have to do a part 2 because I'm going to go and show you that this devil, whatchamacallit, talking. And I'm going to compare it to a Yiddish speaker, somebody that's speaking Yiddish, and it sounds identical. Yiddish. It says a language used by J people in Central and in Eastern Europe before the H word. It was originally a German dialect with words from Hebrew and several modern languages, and today spoken mainly in the U.S., Israel, and Russia. So it's a gumbo. So they took this Yiddish concept, baked it into what we know as modern Hebrew, and switched the whole thing around like it's actually ancient Hebrew. That's how it's presented to the people because the people don't know better. They don't know this is a pretty much made up language. Let's go here. And this the guy that heavily influenced this, Eliezer ben Yehudi, right? Then you got the vowels added by the Masoretes and so on and so forth. That's a lot of history. It says Eliezer ben Yehudi was a Hebrew writer and lexicographer, generally considered the father of modern Hebrew. You hear this? Okay. Making nothing up. Right here. It says, is modern Hebrew the same as ancient Hebrew? No, modern Hebrew is not the same as ancient Hebrew. Why is this so important to understand this? Because it's just telling you that these are imposters. Though they are related, modern Hebrew has evolved significantly from biblical Hebrew. So they trying to dress it up so it don't sound as bad. But this is not the same language that our forefathers spoke. With the ba and the ga, da, ka, wa, Yahweh. And that's why you get the madness with the pronunciation, with the vowels there. That's complete confusion. And a lot of these words are made up out of thin air. And a lot of these words, and we know the pronunciation is influenced by Yiddish on a lot of these words because that's the language they spoke. They just brought it into this concept of modern Hebrew and took the Yiddish off of it and created new words, but it's still pronunciated in the Yiddish and behaves as a Yiddish word. You know what I'm saying? One second. It says, who's the Masoretes? The Masoretes, a group of J scholars active between 8th and 11th centuries, added vowel markings. So this vowel system was added. And then, later on down the road, this guy here, Eliezer ben Yehudi, actually made the language up out of thin air. And now that's what people speak today. And these are really Edomites. They're Khazars. And when you track down their lineage, Khazars go back to Edom, Esau, Edom. That's their forefather. And it goes back to Amalek. Amalek, because Amalek, I think that was Esau's grandson, Amalek. And then Amalekites and so on and so forth. That's how you have the modern day J people. Alexander the so-called Great was an Amalekite. And these the people that control the world. They control the banking, they control media, they control the news, they control everything. And if you even mention them, they flag your video, they shut you down, they demonetize you. Like for the people that's in the entertainment industry, they knock their accounts up, all kind of stuff. But we don't got nothing to lose. We're not juiced into this world, so we can tell you the truth. But I'm gonna have to do a part 2 to go into deeper into this fraud. So I prove to you that the Hebrew so-called, you can't really even call it Hebrew, it's really Yiddish and other stuff mixed in. That they speak today called modern Hebrew is not the biblical Hebrew. It's not the Hebrew from the Bible. All right. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rachak Kodesh Shalom.